Welcome to another episode of the Bleeding Edge of Digital Health. Really excited about today's guest. We've got Aamir Mahmood with us from Acarix. Aamir, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. It's excited to have you on here. I guess the way I would describe the technology is maybe the best kept secret in med tech right now. I think I used those terms when I initially reached out to you.
Yeah,
And I was shocked when I stumbled upon the tech. I was shocked that I hadn't heard about it and more people hadn't heard about it. And looking forward to getting into that. But I, I guess the best way to term it would be a point of care diagnostic technology to determine if an individual has coronary artery disease. Is that accurate?
that is accurate. And your perplexion around how this has not been known about or adopted so soon is the same as me, right? So when I was approached by the board many months ago to start evaluating this technology, I had no clue about Acarix, and I've spent greater than the last 20 years in the med tech space specific to cardiology. And then even through the process of diligence, 99% of the people I asked had never heard of it. So wonderful opportunity for us. And you're spot on. We're a diagnostic for point of care to rule out coronary artery disease and first in class. So really excited about the technology and where we can take it.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. It's a Swedish-based company, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe that had something to do with it. It just hadn't um, appropriately commercialized here in the United States, but certainly a unique opportunity and an exciting one ahead of you.
Yes, sir.
What? Well, let's get started by just how did the company get started? I know, there's a lot of technology that can come out of some of these countries like Sweden because they've got some different tech transfer laws, and so
Right.
some of these technologies can come to light a little quicker than others. But I'd love to hear just kind of how the company got started and how you got involved.
Yes. So appreciate that. So yes, we're based in Stockholm. Our production is actually in Copenhagen, Denmark. The root of Acarix really came from Denmark, Aalborg University, where Samuel Schmidt and Klaus Christensen, the two founders of this technology, along with the university, really started to cultivate how Acarix was going to be implemented. And as you're probably aware, in Denmark, acoustics is a big deal. That's where all the major acoustic speakers and microphone organizations come from. So there's a natural fit from a technology standpoint. And so it really stemmed from there in 2004, I believe, is when that actually started the process from the concept phase. And it kind of grew into an organization over the next few years and really started their segue into the commercial markets in Europe. Did not necessarily focus on the US, which we are doing now as of the last 24 months. And we got FDA approval, got FDA de novo approval, and we have just started our commercial stride in the US in late 2022. And through last year, I joined the company in February of this year, just recently, a little over 90 days ago. And we are really penetrating the US market, going at it from a different angle from what they previously did. And we're really cautiously optimistic on what's transpiring because we're seeing a much larger group of people that are understanding this technology for the first time, seeing the technology for the first time, and asking the same questions you asked me and that I asked the board. Where did this come from, and why doesn't everybody have it? Because
Right.
it's a need, right? The standard of care for decades has been a risk stratification process going from the PCP or anywhere to facilitate a referral to a cardiologist. The cardiologist is going to review it, go through a CT scan or a stress test, depending on which one they implore. And then you're going to get the evaluations done and a report generated to tell you whether tell you your next steps in the process, or if you're negative and you move on. So the need for this is pretty massive, and that's what we're here for, and that's hopefully going to reflect well on this conversation as well as get this out to many more people that we haven't been able to touch yet.
Yeah, so it's interesting because there's a couple unique use cases or problems it appears you guys are trying to solve for, and I'd love for you to outline that. But
Yeah.
if one, there's a lot of evidence that show that stress tests are not as accurate as originally perceived,
Hmm.
and so. um, I'm guessing that that was part of the impetus for designing the technology. But we've also got, massive, uh, capacity issues with emergency departments here in the U.S. Set the stage for us. What's the one or two big problems you guys are trying to solve for?
The biggest challenge that we feel we're a fit for is really being able to cultivate the diagnostic at point of care with all the patients that are coming in. Heart disease is the number one killer. That is something that is continually being strived for risk stratification to create more efficiencies, get the patients in sooner. And you're spot on, right? So you've got stress tests and CT that have been around for generations. Well, I shouldn't say generations, but decades, in regarding the backflow of going into those places, as well as the backlog going into those places, really creates a problem because coronary artery disease and sudden cardiac death do not have too many precursors, right? So having a diagnostic at point of care, not only for everyday usage, but also rural communities and places where the standard of care is a little different, or the opportunity for care is a little bit different, underserved markets per se. This is an opportunity for any patient coming in with low to moderate chest pain, can be evaluated immediately within 7 to 10 minutes. Can have a decision based on the CADScor system. That'll provide a very easy to read number, right? And then, so you're going to get a scale at anything below 20. Your risk of coronary artery disease is low, and anything above 20 is higher, and you need to be pushed through the opportunity for risk stratification further with cardiology consults. So really what we're providing is a diagnostic that's never been introduced before, and it's a diagnostic that can be rolled out pretty much anywhere. I mean, we're having conversations with urologists, OBGYNs, urgent cares, ASEs,
Primary care, maybe
primary
even.
care, every single opportunity out there, because patients end up going to one physician that they feel comfortable with, and we're making sure that this opportunity is everywhere. And most recently, I had a conversation with a urology group that they have a need for a CV consult prior to any operation or procedure, and they're wondering if this can be implemented in the office before the procedure, or even at the procedure before the procedure, to have this kind of ruled out the coronary disease that could possibly be there, and we can provide them a diagnostic that rules it out with 96+% efficacy. So we feel very confident that this is where it could be involved. And the precipitous, you're right, there is a need, and there has not been an opportunity to fulfill that need until now with CADScor.
Yeah, you're spot on with people gravitate to the physician they feel the most comfortable with. Women, you take women for example. My wife's recently had some health issues. She doesn't even have a primary care doctor.
Right.
She goes to her gyno for everything,
That's right.
and the gyno just refers her out to the urologist, the uro GYN, or the uh, general surgeon, or whatever the issue that needs to be addressed. You get a direct referral for it. So yeah, I think the market probably is much larger than
That's right.
maybe initially assumed. Let's jump into the tech. Do you have a device there that you could
I
show?
do.
Yeah,
There's a device.
that's
So
it, huh?
pretty simple device. It's the computational learning and all the I'm not the best
Algorithms.
engineer here, but all the algorithms, the data board, the mother switch, everything, and then this is the acoustic piece. Essentially, this is going to be placed on the chest of the patient, right where lead two would technically go. After a 12 lead EKG, you're going to put this on there, and then it's going to run its course through the algorithms, and within 7 to 10 minutes, you'll have your diagnostic, and that's where it becomes pretty exciting for us, right? And as well as healthcare practitioners, right? So they have never had this tool, and it's an easy to use tool, right? So, and it's providing you a really rapid diagnostic to really help you to manage your referral pathways more efficiently, but also get those patients out of the system that don't need to be there. And that's kind of key on our value proposition, right? So one of the reasons I joined this company is it's got a tremendously acute, comprehensive value proposition, and that means the patient, the physician, and the payer, which just doesn't happen very often, right? In
Right.
medtech, there's very few times that you can come in and really benefit all three of those parties that truly have an impact on what's going on with patient
Yeah,
care.
you're lucky
Um,
if you can typically get two.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that. I actually just right before this had a meeting with, one of the largest payers in the United States to implement this technology. Because if you look at the data, you look at the ease of the product being used and how quickly the diagnostic can be performed. That's great for the patient, right? So anybody who presents with acute, moderate chest pain, low to moderate chest pain, that's a very scary thing. And you typically will not get an answer if you're at the ER until the CV guy comes in to do a consult. And they're going to need to do those tests of the CT and stress tests to really rule it out or progress forward. This is providing that patient the ability to, one, go home, hopefully, right? If they do not have a high risk of coronary artery disease, or if they do have to go through further risk assessment, at least they know, okay, there's something here that they need to evaluate further. So you're able to really mitigate the stress and anxiety of the patient and fundamentally understanding where they're at in the continuum of coronary artery disease. And then for the physician, right? They didn't have this tool.
Right.
And I've talked to so many ER physicians that this is really something they need, something that is been in their heads on how do we mitigate this risk of these patients that we need to decide, okay, they need to go home or they need to be pushed forward. The US is very litigious. It's very difficult to do that without something. And, I just left that meeting and they're like, well, this will give a tangible report as to why those patients were discharged because they don't have a high risk of coronary artery disease, or this is why that patient stayed and continued the process for risk stratification with the CV because of this course. So that is huge for the physician. But then the payers. So just recently at ACC this year, Dr. Susan Barron from Mass General and the Baim Institute did a abstract, and it's hopefully going to be published any day now, regarding the implementation of CADScor in an emergency room or emergency department setting. And it was remarkable the outcomes that they had. They showed cost savings of 170 plus million per 100,000 patients, right?
Wow.
So if you do the math, that's about $1,700 saved per patient. And as we
Per
know, the
patient
US has,
that came in with chest pain.
that is right, because
Yeah.
35% per our data shows that an average 35% of patients that present can be ruled out. And prior to CADScor, there was no real way to rule out other than just a subjective decision by the physician. Now there's
Which
an opportunity.
oftentimes would lead to them going and getting a diagnostic,
Exactly.
unnecessary diagnostic procedure, et
Exactly.
cetera.
So tying up that bed in the ER for 5 hours to a day, the extra tests and diagnostics, the extra referral charges going through the process. I mean, there's a significant amount of dollars that really grows rapidly when you're in the healthcare environment, right? So even and when we talk about the opportunity in metropolitan areas, it's fantastic because you've got a massive patient load. But when you start really thinking through the process of rural communities, the underserved markets, this is huge because that payer just described to me at lunch today that just to send a helicopter out to pick up a patient in a rural community and come back, average cost is like $40,000 to $50,000,
Yep.
and that
That doesn't
alone
surprise me at all.
is massive, right? And the minimum charge for an ambulance is $1,000.
Yep.
So that's a minimum, right? So when you start looking at all that data, and you see what CADScor can do, and really try to mitigate the cost in the system, that's where it really is an exciting technology all the way around because payers are leaning forward. They're like, wait a second, those are real dollars. There will
Yep.
be thousands of patients. One physician that I met with recently at a very large institution that's in multiple states says they see approximately 10,000 low to moderate chest pain patients a month,
Yep.
and the majority of them are lost to follow up because they're either sitting in the ER and then they ask to be discharged, or they're waiting in the hospital for a few days trying to get these tests going, and they leave themselves. So really, the good news for us is we're helping the physicians too to streamline their processes and create more efficiencies in the risk stratification process, which means they're getting referrals of patients that need to be seen, the patients they need to intervene on. And obviously, time is of the essence in this disease state. So we're mitigating the patients that don't need to be in that process and get the patients there faster that need to be in that process.
Yeah.
So when you look at the value proposition, it was so compelling to me that I joined, and I couldn't be more excited. I think that this thing is going to go places and truly be a game changer in our field.
Yeah.
I believe that.
It's yeah. To your point, when the payers look at this, they've got a ton of baked in unnecessary costs as a result of patients moving forward, that don't need to be moved forward. And right there, if you could just take that 30% and lop that off, even if you didn't do anything else, the payers are going to remain interested. But like you said, there's a clear, I mean, the value to the patient not having, I was in the ER with my mom on Friday, and it's just if you don't have connections, it is such an inefficient system.
Yeah.
And then the benefits to the physician, are obvious, especially, no brainer for the acute settings like the ER.
Right.
And to your point, anytime an elderly patient's got to have um, any type of procedure, they have to have a cardiology, a clearance before they can get approved for surgery. So lots of different use cases. I'm sure you're like a kid in a candy store at this point, trying to
Yeah.
figure out. But the biggest challenge is probably just figuring out which elephant to hunt first.
That's 100% accurate, right? So we've got our commercial team is focusing on one thing, and I'm focusing on really this payer development aspect, just to not deviate their focus. And I'm focusing on that because when we have the adoption of the payers, just because the value proposition of them is so huge, that will expedite our growth pretty massively. As you know, going from a CPT 3 code to a CPT 1 code takes time. We are fortunate enough to have significant clinical data. We have over 9,000 patients that have been through clinical trials. We have over 40,000 patients that have this has been done on. So we have a very compelling portfolio of data, and we feel very good about it. We feel very good about our negative predictive value of being 96% plus. Having that concrete amount of evidence because of what everybody did prior to my arrival, and really deploying that as of recent in the US is, I think, truly what's helping us to completely change the game for Acarix and the disease state in the US. Because, like you mentioned, our biggest challenge, nobody knew about us.
Yeah.
Now we're got these PR campaigns. We're focused on social media, specifically LinkedIn. We are generating the awareness and the noise that is really compelling, and we're starting to be the benefactor of that because exactly what we're talking about, people, it resonates.
Yeah.
People know there's a need, and now we have people engaging us that we weren't even targeting. So that elephant for me continually gets bigger, and there's multiple. Right. So
Yeah.
I'm looking to see what is the most important thing, and for us as an organization is obviously the patient, but how we represent ourselves to the patient is second, and that's our commercial efforts and our reimbursement efforts. Right. So those two kind of go hand in hand. You have to see that reimbursement to push the opportunity for commercialization. But the exciting part is that even though there is not full reimbursement nationwide for us, that's what we're working towards. We have implemented risk sharing models that mitigate the risk for our PCPs as well as healthcare organizations. So we are doing our best, what's in our best interest commercially, but also what's in the best interest of humanity by making sure that this is out there.
Yeah.
We are absorbing the risk and the costs associated. So if there's people that want to use us and they don't get reimbursed, we're going to make sure that they're credited or receive a replacement patch at no charge. The device right now, the CADScor system, which is normally sold for $7,500 as a piece of capital equipment, we're consigning today. So we are not even charging for that because we truly need to drive the adoption, drive the submission for reimbursement to get this technology where it needs to be. And quite frankly, in my opinion, it needs to be in every office. It needs to be in every hospital. It needs to be in every ER. It needs to be everywhere. Like we're
Urgent
talking about
care. Yeah.
urgent care, ASCs. I mean, there's an opportunity for this product everywhere that healthcare is represented. And I think that as we continually build the momentum and build the awareness and the understanding from the payers aspect, I think that this thing is really off to the races
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's the reimbursement thing's a little bit of a chicken or the egg, right? Because
Yep,
you gotta, you have to show usage, you have to show viability, you have to show that it does make sense financially and economically in order to get that Cat 1 code.
that's
And
right.
so you just have to get creative in a good way, which you guys are doing with the replacement products and
Yep.
consignment and all of that, to drive that. And then once the results are in, then you get your Cat 1 code, and it's Katie bar the doors. How long does the test take?
The test takes anywhere between 7 and 10 minutes. So that's pretty
Wow.
exciting as well. So we're not taking too much time. That actually is one of the first questions we get from PCPs or even cardiologists. I mean, because their flow is making sure they're seeing as many patients as they possibly can because they have such a backlog. But realistically speaking, sits right in there within 7 to 10 minutes, sometimes faster. We're hopeful that it's within that range, but it's pretty rapid. And we use that term rapid. We try not to use it too loosely, but it is of importance, but it generates the score for you within 7 to 10 minutes. So what we're
It,
seeing adoption, where we're seeing the adoption from a workflow standpoint, is literally right after the tech is in there with the 12 lead EKG. The same tech can then remove the second lead and put that where lead two goes, and it can run the test while the tech is still in there with the EKG, because we
it,
feel those go hand in hand.
and then how does that work? So, because I watched the video, it looks like the tech is only really involved in a couple bursts of time where the breath is held, so that
That's right.
uh, seemingly so that the respiratory system doesn't interfere with the
That's
microphone.
right. That's right.
Um, what is that? Is that's three or four short windows of breaths, and then it's just the system is just
The
calculating the
system is
score, right?
generating the
So the tech can
computational
go
learning.
do something else if they
Yep.
want, and just
The
leave the
tech,
device
yeah.
in
So
place.
it's a set it and forget it.
Yep.
If you put it there, it does its own thing with the process of holding the breath, and then we're basically listening to flow rates and the acoustics inside. As you're well aware, and most of all your followers, there's two aspects. There's the electric part of the heart and the plumbing part of the heart. We're acutely focused on the plumbing of the heart. We're seeing the flow and using the acoustics and the computational learning within the CADScor device to generate the numbers. And
Yeah,
it
that's
sounds
big. If
simple, but it's
that's
not simple.
big, that's big if the tech doesn't have to sit there for 10
That's
minutes
right.
and work
Right.
on that patient. They can set it, capture the breaths, and then go do something else, come back 10 minutes later, and boom, the score is
Right.
up. The workflow in the ED, that plays nicely.
Indeed.
Um, what's you mentioned reimbursement. So where is that at right now? And do you guys have a Cat 3 code, or is it are you
Yeah.
guys working towards
As
that?
as of right now, we're Cat 3. We are acutely focused on having conversations with CMS. We just had a conversation with CMS for ambulatory services, outpatient services. We should hopefully hear about that in July, which we're cautiously optimistic that that comes through. We had the meeting with CMS, and there didn't seem to be any questions, and they were pretty pleased with what they saw. And again, we're first in class technology, so there's really difficult to have too many questions or comparatives.
Right.
So that's exciting. We are working diligently towards CPT 1, but given the fact that this is such a huge opportunity, we've elected to go direct to payers to solidify our payment in a good way, even before we get to CPT 1. Many businesses have done that and built massive businesses with that angle, and so we're pushing for that uh, pretty significantly and in parallel with our commercial efforts. And I think that what we're going to end up doing is lock them in even before we get to CPT 1. And then when you look at it from a national perspective, we are everywhere. We are implementing CADScor and adopting the technology all across the U.S. right now. So on average, with CPT 3, we're averaging about $170 per reimbursement. So that's far above the cost basis associated to implementing CADScor per patient. And so we're also seeing some that are very high, north of 800. We're seeing some that are low, like $50. But that's typical when you're working in the CPT 3 range. But what we are focused on is making sure that we're pushing this out to as many patients and physicians as possible to create that adoption, because you're 100% accurate. They look at usage, they look at adoption, and they look at submission. Even if it's denied, it's part of a submission
Yep.
process. And so that's why we rolled out the risk sharing model, right? So we're going to mitigate that risk. We're going to consign the device instead of the physicians pay for it or the hospital pays for it. We're going to consign the device. There's a risk sharing model in place, has 3 variables, very simple. One, if you get paid more than you paid, great. You're going to take the reimbursement. The process is working. If you're short paid, we're going to provide you a credit towards your next purchase for the exact amount. If you got a fatal denial after submission, we're going to replace the patch at no charge, right? So we're going to make sure that the organization, physician group, what have you, will not have a massive risk undertaking surrounding this. And most of them understand because they've been through this process. The Holter monitor space went to this
Yep.
this model many years ago, and it took a while to adopt. I really created a pretty significant market. In CPT3, I think they were generating hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. So we're very cautiously optimistic. And you guys may have seen the announcement last week, I believe, at our annual shareholder meeting. We did bring on Ken Nelson, who's very deep in the digital health space as part of iRhythm biotelemetry, and recently at Barty. So he has a deep understanding of this space, and he and I have been friends for over 20 years. We met at Guidant 20 years ago when we were younger in our careers, and so we're bringing the right people on board to assist and help us from a consultative approach, and really push this thing to every market that it needs to be in, and we feel that's everywhere. And I don't want to hesitate to mention Dr. Tony Doss from Baylor Scott and White was also appointed to our board. He's got a deep understanding of digital health. He was an early adopter, and he's very deep on the industry side too. So he sits on a number of boards and really has helped a number of companies embrace the U.S. market and develop the U.S. market. So this is all within the last couple of weeks. In the last 90 days, we've done a lot, and so we're really, really excited, and we're seeing a significant amount of traction and upward trajectory on where we're going as a company.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually interviewed Ken, I don't know, maybe a month ago for cardiac care, and
Yep.
great guy. I mean, he's a stalwart in this business, and to be adding the names like Ken and Tony Doss, those are signals to the market that that there's some meat on the bone with the opportunity. And I saw, I think it was pretty recently, if not this month, Medicare Advantage took you guys off the
Yep.
the non, how's that
Non
termed again?
Non-pay,
Non-reimbursable list. Yeah.
non-reimbursement.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a huge step, right? So that's one of the steps. It's one of the early steps in that continuum to kind of get to a fixed reimbursement code. So we're very optimistic, and honestly, I believe what's transpiring is the awareness, right? So the PR campaigns we're running, there is creating awareness, and it's
Yep.
creating awareness and adoption, which is going to open those doors for us, just like United did. So we will continue that push alongside and in parallel with our commercial efforts and rolling this out as many places as we can get it, all simultaneously. We're just full speed ahead.
Yeah. So, put your feet to the fire a little bit here, and I don't know how much you'll be able to answer, but what's next with this technology? I know you got your hands full
Yeah,
there. I mean, this is a huge market.
yeah,
Um, I mean, you guys could focus on just the coronary market for the next 10 years, and
right.
maybe not fully maximize the potential. But I would think this has got a peripheral application to
Yeah,
it.
it's got a number of applications, right? So since in bringing on some advisors and board members, there's been conversation about so many opportunities and things we need to look at that this could be applicable towards. Which I can't disclose those. However, I can disclose the next thing which is very, very soon coming. Is we have a heart failure diagnostic
Wow.
that's going to be in the preserved ejection fraction realm. So as you know, that's a much larger population than the lower EF ejection fraction patients. So there's something big coming from our perspective, and that algorithm is called Seismo. So we're
Mhm.
very optimistic about what that's going to do. It's still working through the details and the data, and refining the algorithms, but that's something that the team is currently working on, and that's public information. So our next generation will also include a heart failure diagnostic that's going to
Yeah.
be, and that's my old wheelhouse, right? So I came from the CRM space, and that's something that is still wide open for assessment and diagnostics, and really implementing a way to really stratify those patients as quickly as you possibly can. Just like this space, you need to diagnose and get those people in before any sort of decompensation hits, because that's extraordinarily expensive to the system. So if
Yep.
we can, and to the patient, is detrimental to the patient. So we're really excited about that technology and where it comes from. But right now, our focus is the CAD market, and it's a massive market. And you're right, we could be doing this for the next 10 to 15 years, and really help to build a brand new business of diagnostics in the space.
Yeah. Boy, if you can, I mean, there's a couple technologies out there right now in the heart failure space, but what would be unique about this one is it would be a natural fit for patients coming into the ED, but you could also use it for the inpatients,
That's right.
and it's got direct applicability there. Really exciting, man.
Sure.
I'm glad we were able to pull this together. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and share the story with us. Um, while this thing might have been a well kept secret for several years, I think the jig is up here. I think
Yeah.
you're gonna start to see some pretty wide awareness out there, and that's intentional. So, congrats on the success thus far, and look forward to following you guys moving forward.
Indeed. Well, I appreciate it very much. And you're right. We are loud, and we are going to make sure the noise is heard, and that this technology is adopted, and we're going to continually cultivate the technology and bring out more products. So we really appreciate the time and the platform to amplify what we're trying to do. So thank you for that. And then hopefully in a couple of months, maybe a year or two, we'll do another one, and we'll start talking about what's next.
You're welcome back anytime. I'd love that.
All right.
That's it for this edition of the Bleeding Edge of Digital Health. We'll catch you on the next episode.